Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I decided to do a story time on my labor and delivery. I do have two babies and I do want to do two story times, and I'm going to do them separately just because I know that they're going to be semi long, but with my second daughter, I did record during birth. With my first, we tried, but with Natalia, we didn't have where to put the camera. The nurses, we had placed a camera like right next to me, and they thought that that wasn't okay, so we weren't able to do that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Let's backtrack to 2015, where my husband and we weren't actively trying to get pregnant, but we said we were gonna, well, I said I was gonna leave birth control because I had been on it for a couple years and I wanted to clean my body out. It had been months, half a year, I did not get pregnant. I finally went to the doctor and they explained to me that since I was irregular and I was overweight, so a lot of the things were pointed out that maybe this is why you're not getting pregnant. So I remember I started losing weight. I lost weight. I lost like maybe 15 pounds, and then after a year and 3 months, I'm gonna say, we finally got pregnant. We got pregnant in December, and this is crazy because I took a test January 2nd. My husband was working. He was doing graves, I think, and he was asleep, and I took that test that morning and there was 2 lines and I was like freaking out. I was pregnant. I was so excited, but I can do another video on that if anybody is interested on how I got pregnant and my struggle through that year. I can go ahead and do that video. But we got pregnant December. My due date was September 9th. A year passed, or at least it seems like a year, right? But 10 months, 9 months passed, and it was finally time to give birth. And so December 9th, nothing happened. I didn't get contractions. I didn't dilate. They scheduled me for September 18th. I was gonna get induced. I went in and I was so excited and I was so nervous. My husband was working. He had worked that night, and so he got off that morning. But in the morning, I remember I spent it with my parents. We went to have breakfast at a birreria in Castroville. We used to live in Castroville back then. And then what I did is go back home that day and I took a bath, and I was just like, I'm gonna rest because I know that this is probably the last day that I will rest. So I took a bath, I showered, I got in bed. My husband was still sleeping, and then we put an alarm for like 5 o'clock or 4, and it was time to head out to the hospital. We were about 30 minutes away. I lived in Castroville, California, and I gave birth in Santa Cruz, California. And so it was kind of like a drive. On our way there, nothing, no contractions, nothing. I was trying to stay calm. I didn't eat because I didn't want to poop. TMI. I didn't want to poop during birth. So I regret that because I was so hungry, and at the hospitals they don't let you eat. We got to the hospital and I got admitted. They checked me and they thought that I was progressing by myself, so they didn't give me that first pill to make you dilate, but they did start me on Pitocin. That's what I understand, but I don't know if that's correct. They started with, like, I think you can go up to 20 with Pitocin, I'm not sure. And they started, I didn't feel anything. Got admitted at 6 p.m. We were walking around the hospital and I started to feel contractions maybe until like 3, 4 in the morning. Nothing happened during night. We were just walking around the hospital and I was starting to feel the contractions. They were pretty intense. And I don't know, I don't think I can tolerate pain well. Then in the morning, the nurse came in, the doctor came in, they popped my water. Right after I said I want to get the epidural, so they came in and I was so scared, but I couldn't handle these contractions anymore. So they put my husband right in front of me and I was holding his hands, squeezing them so hard, trying not to move, and the needle went in and I was just like, damn. But you know what? It's crazy because I didn't really feel it. With my second daughter, I felt that needle every second they pushed it in. But anyways, so I got the epidural. Everything was so good. My parents, my mother-in-law was there. I think my sister-in-law got there too. It was 3 p.m. and then I was like, Hector, I have to push. And they hadn't checked me yet. The nurses were just out. I remember they weren't really attentive. But I told them, you know, I have to push. And honestly, I just wanted Hector and my mom in there. Just because I'm really shy, I'm really embarrassed. I didn't want anybody else to see my body or see me in that stage. So I asked Hector, you know, he already knew what I wanted. So my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law stepped out because I told them I think we should practice. And my mom even stepped out. I think nobody, like, they hadn't told me I was ready to push or anything, but me and him were practicing in the room. But I was kind of like sitting down pushing, and it felt good to push, but I don't know if that made things worse for me once I gave birth. You'll see why. Doctors came in because my husband went outside and my husband was like, why she's pushing, we have to go help her. And so they came in. My mom came back in and it was just us three and my doctor. So it was time to push. I literally pushed for like 15-20 minutes and Natalia came out. Being a first time mom and, you know, seeing your baby lay on you. First of all, she couldn't really lay on my chest because the umbilical cord was really short. So they just laid her like on my belly button, like on my lower stomach. And I just like kind of was holding her head. And then once Dad cut the cord, they didn't give her to me because they noticed that I wouldn't stop bleeding. That's where things went south. Things got really bad. I was losing a lot of blood and the doctors, you know, they didn't show that I was losing a lot of blood, but I was looking at my doctor and I asked her, is everything okay? Because her face looked like, you know, worried. There was fear in her face and she didn't answer me. She just looked at me and didn't answer. And that right there was everything. I knew something was wrong. So I looked at my husband and I was like, something's wrong. Like, she just didn't answer me. And I just told him, you know, go with Natalia. He knew as soon as they take her from me, you follow her everywhere because you just never know. And so he went over there and I just kept looking at the doctor and the nurses. They were asking me if I was okay. They kept putting gauze down there because they told me, you know, you're bleeding a lot. She had to make a phone call to another doctor and ask, you know, she's bleeding a lot. What else can I do? They tried putting like pills inside me. Sorry, TMI. They tried to put pills in there, but they came out with the blood, so there was no point to that. At some point, I started to feel like I was gonna faint. But I didn't think I was gonna faint. I was thinking I'm gonna die. I felt like my whole body was just like loose. I couldn't understand the nurses and I couldn't see them. They became semi-blurry to me and I kind of was seeing lights and I really thought to myself, if you close your eyes, Laura, you are not gonna wake up again. And I was really afraid to just let go. I felt my body being so weak. All of a sudden they put a mask on me. Oxygen. That saved my life. At least that's how it felt. As soon as they put that on me, I feel like I came back. I had some type of energy. I could open my eyes, I could move my hands, but I was still laying down because they were still working on me down there. I had filled so many like charts. They have charts of like gauze that they do for blood. I had filled like a lot of those. They finally gave me a shot on my leg, and it turns out that I had a hemorrhage, so, you know, bleeding. My baby was a little big, so she was 9 pounds 5 ounces. Although, you know, women have bigger babies and they're fine, but I guess everyone's different, and they somehow controlled the blood. Once they finished, because she did cut me, once they finished down there, they left. I still wasn't able to hold the baby because I wasn't able to sit up. Once I tried sitting up, I felt dizzy. Family were coming in, and, you know, I was so thankful and happy to see them, but I literally could not talk. I was just laying down with my oxygen mask and my bucket here to see if, because I felt like I had to throw up again. And people were leaving. Family members saw that I wasn't okay, and so people were leaving, and it was finally, you know, just me and my husband in the room, and I felt okay. I felt better. I remember they brought me Subway, and I took a couple bites out of that. And remember, I hadn't ate all day. Yeah, it gave me a little bit of energy. I sat up slowly because I swear any little movement, I was so like weak that I felt dizzy. I did get a blood transfusion the next day, I believe, because I don't know why it didn't happen right away, but I had to give them permission and all this stuff because anything can happen, right? I'm getting blood from somebody else, and you know, it's scary because on the papers, they want to cover their butts. They're like, if this has HIV, if this has something, it's not our fault. You're signing, but we already checked it. So we already checked the blood and you should be okay. But they still note that, and that scared me. But I had to do anything to, you know, feel better, to have enough blood in me, because I didn't. Once my husband and I were alone in the room, he finally gave me Natalia. It was the first time I held her. It was, I remember, 10:30 at night, and I was like, oh my God, I had you at 4:20 and I'm barely holding you. It was such a beautiful moment because I just looked at her and I forgot everything I had just gone through. And it was amazing. That experience really scared me to have another baby. But as you guys know, I do have another baby. I have 2 little girls, so 2, not 4, 2. And so the second labor story is a lot different. But I do want to thank everybody at the hospital because they were so helpful. The nurses cared a lot for me, and I wouldn't be here without them. So that's my labor and delivery story. I will never forget that experience. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful New Year's, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.